That was Siyam Shahr Ramadan. As for ijma', then Imam An-Nawawi rahimahullah, he mentions this ruling that we have mentioned, that Ramadan is a pillar from the pillars of Islam, is something which is agreed upon. And there's consensus. Similarly, Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah declared consensus based upon that. Who is obligatory to fast upon? Who is it obligatory to fast upon? The first one is that he must be Muslim. The one fasting must be Muslim. Now, the question comes often, what about the kafir? Is it obligatory upon him to fast or no? The kafir, he is not sought to fast, but he is sinning for leaving off fasting. There's a difference between the two. He is not sought from him to fast, but he is sinning for not fasting, because that which is prescribed upon the Muslim is prescribed upon him. But his kufr did not make him perform it. So if he fasts, it is not accepted. But he is sinning for leaving off fasting. He is sinning for leaving off fasting. And Nawawi rahimahullah says that قال أصحابنا من the Shafi'is لا يطالب الكافر الأصلي بفعل الصوم في حال كفره بلا خلاف. That the kafir, it is not sought from him to fast Ramadan or to fast whilst he is a disbeliever بلا خلاف, without any differing. وإذا أسلم لا يجب عليه قضاؤه بلا خلاف. And if he becomes Muslim, he does not have to make up those fasts he missed. ولو صام في كفره لم يصح بلا خلاف. And if you were to fast while being a disbeliever, his fasting is not correct. سوى أسلم بعد ذلك أم لا. وقال وليس مراد أنه ليس بواجب في حال كفره. This does not mean that it is not obligatory upon him to fast while he is a disbeliever. فإن المذهب الصحيح أن الكفار مخاطبون بفروع الشر في حال كفرهم. The correct madhab, the correct opinion, is that the kuffar are told that they must perform that which is from the furu' al-shar, the actions of the legislation, even when they're disbelievers. بمعنى أنهم يزاد في عقوبتهم في الآخرة بسبب ذلك. For them leaving it off, their punishment increases in the hereafter, if they left it off. So showing that fasting is obligatory upon them, and they will increase their punishment for not doing it, but the Muslim is who is obligatory upon. The kafir, if he fasts, is not accepted from him. The second condition is that he must be baligh. He must be someone who reached the age of puberty. So al-Muslim, baligh. Baligh means he reached the age of puberty, but the one who has not reached the age of puberty yet, the father and the mother, they train the child. They tell him to fast so that he becomes accustomed to fasting. The next one is aqil, the one who has intellect. For the one who is insane or does not have intellect, his fast is not accepted. The proof for these two is, it comes in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّ الْقَلَمْ قَدْ رُفِعَ عَنْ ثَلَاثَةٍ. The pen has been raised from 3. عَنِ الْمَجْنُونَ حَتَّى يَبْرَعْ. From the insane one until he is cured. وَعَنِ النَّائِمْ حَتَّى يَسْتَيْقِظ. The sleeping one until he is awakened. وَعَنِ الصَّبِي حَتَّى يَعْقِلْ. And the young one until he has reached the age of puberty. Similarly, the next condition is they must be pure. The person fasting must be pure. What is intended here is that for the woman specifically, they must not be in the state of menstruation or in the state of postpartum bleeding. The state of menstruation or postpartum bleeding. If she is menstruating or in postpartum bleeding, she is not allowed to fast. She is not allowed to fast, and she makes up those days that she missed due to that. Similarly, he must be qadir. He must be capable and able to fast. For the one who is old age or he is sick, in which there is no cure for him, then he does not fast. The one who is of old age who is not able to fast, he does not fast. Similarly, he must be muqim. He must be a resident. For the musafir, he has an excuse to break his fast. The musafir is allowed for him to not fast, and he can break his fast. The first hadith he mentions from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجلا كان يصوم صوما فليصومه. None of you should precede Ramadan by a day or two, except for a man that is fast customarily, then let him fast. Then let him fast. In this hadith, he mentions different points. First and foremost, is it said Ramadan or Shahr Ramadan? Some people, they say you cannot say Ramadan because they say Ramadan is from the names of Allah. So they say you must say Shahr Ramadan. And Nawawi rahimahullah says, after mentioning the different differences of the statements, وَالصَّوَابْ أَنَّهُ لَا كِرَاهَ فِي قَوْلِ رَمَضَانِ مُطْلَقًا. There is no disliking in saying Ramadan unrestrictedly. وَالْمَذْهَبَانِ الْآخِرَانِ فَاسِدان. As for the other opinions, they are corrupt. So it's okay to say Ramadan. For example, the proof for that is, the reason why they mention this, لا تقدموا رمضان. If it was not allowed to say Ramadan, the Prophet said, لا تقدموا شهر رمضان. Similarly, the Prophet said, من صام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا. He never said, من صام شهر رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا. So this is something which is permissible to say. As for the hadith, لا تقولوا رمضان. Do not say Ramadan. فإن رمضان اسم من أسماء الله ولكن قولوا شهر رمضان. Do not say Ramadan. For Ramadan is from the names of Allah, but rather say the month of Ramadan. This hadith is weak. This hadith is weak. So it's permissible to say Shahr Ramadan, or it's permissible to say Ramadan. Both of them have come in the evidences. Example, Shahr Ramadan has come where? Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Qur'an. And Ramadan alone has come in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When was Ramadan obligated? And Nawawi rahimahullah mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam fasted 9 Ramadans. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam fasted 9 Ramadans. Because it was made obligatory in the month of Sha'ban in the second year of the Hijrah. In the second year of the Hijrah, in the month of Sha'ban, Ramadan was obligated, and the Prophet ﷺ passed away in the 11th year of Hijrah. So the Prophet ﷺ fasted 9 Ramadans. He fasted 9 Ramadans. Shaykh al-Bassam, said, وفرض رمضان في شعبان في سنة الثانية من الهجرة فصام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم 9 رمضانات بإجماع. By consensus, the Prophet ﷺ fasted 9 Ramadans. Another question that may come, was Ramadan obligated upon the nations before us? It comes that Allah says in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. O you believe, fasting was prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those before you, so that you may attain piety. But the Yahud, it is known, and the Jews as well, that they are included in this ayah, and that they fasted. But was Ramadan obligated upon them? The scholars mentioned, it comes from Qatada, أن رمضان فرضه الله على من كان قبلنا. Qatada mentioned that Ramadan was obligated upon those before us. أخرجه ابن جرير. وأما عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فلم يثبت عنه شيء. As for from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, there's nothing authentically reported from him that the nations before us fasted Ramadan. فلما لم يثبت شيء فنقول فرض عليهم الصيام. Since nothing was affirmed, we say fasting was obligated upon them, but we cannot say that Ramadan was also obligatory upon them. Since we have nothing from the Prophet ﷺ, we say that they fasted. They had a way that they fasted. As for was Ramadan or not, we can't say that because we have no clear evidence for that. As it comes from the hadith of Ibn Abbas that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the Jews used to fast Ashura. So it shows that they used to fast. But did they fast Ramadan or not? We have no clear evidence for that. So we say that yes, they did fast, but as for them fasting Ramadan, then Allah knows best. As for this hadith of preceding Ramadan by fasting a day or two before Ramadan, then the scholars differ regarding its ruling. Some of the scholars, they said that it is disliked, and that is a majority statement. The majority of the scholars, they say that it is disliked to fast a day or two before the month of Ramadan enters. The second statement is that it is haram. It is haram, and some of the scholars, they took this stance, and it is what is the correct stance. It is haram to fast a day or two if it is not from your custom to fast those days. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقدم Ramadan. This is a prohibition. This is a prohibition. Now, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that we fast Ramadan by the sighting of the moon. We cannot fast based on one doubting whether Ramadan has entered or not. For that reason, the scholars, they say the correct stance is that it's haram to fast a day or two before Ramadan unless it was from your customary fast that you used to fast. From them who mention this, As-San'ani takes a stance that it is haram. Now, another point I mentioned, the scholars mentioned, what about fasting after the first half of Sha'ban? And it's a question that comes often. And the reason why we mention a book like this with these points is because a lot of these points are questions that you get asked in the month of Ramadan or before the month of Ramadan. Someone may say, what is the ruling of fasting after the first half of Sha'ban? This is a question that comes often. Now, many of the scholars, they went towards a stance that, or many of the scholars in the Shafi'iyya, they went towards the stance that after the first half of Sha'ban, you cannot fast. You cannot fast. And they say that the prohibition, لا تقدم Ramadan, starts from the 16th day of Sha'ban. Starts from the 16th day of Sha'ban. And the evidence for that is that the Prophet ﷺ, they say, he said, إِذَا انْتَصَفَ Sha'ban فَلَا تَصُومُوا. When Sha'ban has come halfway is past, do not fast no more. Do not fast no more. This narration is not authentic from the Prophet ﷺ though. This narration is weak. It is hadithun munkar. It is a hadith which is rejected. But majority of the scholars, they say that it is permissible to fast after the first half of Sha'ban. It is permissible to fast after the first half of Sha'ban. For it comes the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, that she said, ما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم استكمل صيام شهر إلا رمضان. I did not see the Prophet complete a month of fasting except for Ramadan. وما رأيت أكثر صياما منه في شعبان. And I've never seen him fast in any other month other than Ramadan more than he did in Sha'ban. Reported by Bukhari and Muslim. And it comes another narration, كان يصوم شعبان إلا قليلا. He used to fast Sha'ban except for very little. Except for very little. And it comes the hadith of Salama radiallahu anha. قالت ما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصوم شهرين متتابعين إلا شعبان ورمضان. I did not see the Prophet fast 2 consecutive months except for Sha'ban and Ramadan. It shows that the Prophet used to fast Sha'ban a lot. If it was that he didn't fast the second half of Sha'ban, they wouldn't have said that he fasted all of Sha'ban except for very little. So showing us that it's permissible to fast after the Sha'ban has passed the halfway mark. And this is the correct stance, the stance of the majority of the scholars regarding this point. The next hadith is from Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. قال سمعت رسول الله يقول إذا رأيتموه فصوموا وإذا رأيتموه فأفطروا فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له. If you see the new moon sighted, then fast. And if you see the new moon sighted, then break your fast. فإن غم عليكم, if it is unclear to you, فاقدروا له, then estimate it. Now, based on this hadith, the scholars discuss when is it affirmed that the moon was sighted and how many witnesses do you need. And this is important. For many of us, we don't know these rulings, and it's important for us to understand these rulings. As for the first point, when is the sighting of the moon confirmed? How many people have to sight the moon of Ramadan to confirm that the moon has been sighted? The scholars differ regarding that. The first stance is that one person who is just and upright, his witness is accepted. Only one person. You only need one just upright person to say he witnessed the moon. And this was the statement of Ibn Mubarak, Ahmed, and other than them. And the scholars have mentioned this is the statement of the majority of the scholars. And they use the evidence of Ibn Umar radiallahu, the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anh, تَرَى النَّاسُ الْهِلَالِ. The people were looking for Hilal, the new moon. فَأَخْبَرْتُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ أَنِّي رَأَيْتُهُ. I informed the Prophet ﷺ that I seen it. فَصَامَ وَأَمَرَ بِصِيَامِهِ. He fasted and he commanded the people to fast. In this hadith we see that only one person bore witness that he seen the moon, which was Ibn Umar radiallahu anh. And this narration has been authenticated by Imam Al-Albani and Imam Al-Wadi'i rahimahullah. The second statement is that you must have two witnesses. You must have two witnesses. And this was a statement of some of the scholars. From them, Ata and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, Malik and Al-Awza'i, and other than them. And they say that they have a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, أَسْبَهَ النَّاسُ لِتَمَامِ 30 يَوْمًا. The people, they awoken to the completion of 30 days. فَجَاءَ رَابِيَانِ. Two Bedouins came. فَشَهِدَا أَنَّهُمَا أَهْلَاهُ بِالْأَمْسِ عَشِيًّا. They bore witness that they both seen the new moon that night. فَأَمَرَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ أَنْ يُفْطِرُوا. The Prophet commanded that they break their fast. And then it comes another narration. وَإِنْ شَهِدَ شَاهِدَانِ مُسْلِمَانِ فَصُومُوا وَأَفْطِرُوا. If you see two Muslims bear witness, then fast and break your fast. This hadith is weak though. And the third one, so the first statement is which is correct. That for the moon sighting of the month of Ramadan entering, you only need one witness. You only need one witness. And this is the correct stance according to the scholars. As for the month of Shawwal entering and the month of Ramadan exiting, then the scholars say you must have two witnesses. You must have two witnesses. Imam At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah mentioned لم يختلف أهل العلم في الإفطار أنه لا يقبل فيه إلا شهادة رجلين. That the scholars did not differ regarding al-iftar, the month of Ramadan exiting, except that it is not accepted except by way of two men witnessing, bearing witness. Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah mentioned أجمع العلماء لأنه لا تقبل فيه شهادة شوال في فطر إلا رجلان عدلان. That the scholars agreed that with the month of Ramadan entering, Shawwal entering, you must have two witnesses. Although there is some khilaf regarding this affair, as mentioned by Ibn Qudam and other than them, but the correct stance is that for the month of Shawwal entering and the month of Ramadan exiting, you must have two witnesses. You must have two upright and just witnesses. So from this we see that the month of Ramadan enters with the bearing witness of one person who is just and upright, and with the month of Ramadan exiting, then it must be with two people bearing witness. Now, there's other points that the scholars have mentioned regarding this hadith. And back home, this occurs often, and we've heard stories of it, where a person has seen the moon himself. He's seen the moon and no one else has seen it. So the scholars they mention, if he sees the moon himself, does he fast and break his fast alone in this instance? And the first statement is that, yes, he fasts and he breaks his fast according to the sighting of the moon that he's seen. According to the sighting of the moon that he's seen. Now, other scholars they say, no, he fasts alone, he starts the month alone, but when it comes to breaking the fast, the month exiting, he must do it with others as well, with the rest of the people. And others they say, no, he breaks his fast and he starts his fast, and he breaks his fast with the people. As-sawmu yawma tusumun, wal-fitru yawma tuftirun. That the fasting is when the rest of the people they fast with you, when the jama'ah they fast. And the breaking the fast also with the jama'ah as well. But some of the scholars say the correct stance, the first one, because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُوهُ فَصُومُوا. If you see the new moon, then fast. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتُمُوهُ فَأَفْطِرُوا. If you have seen it, and you're certain in that, then you must fast. And if you've seen it, then you break your fast. But you do not cause fitna in the community by making other people go along with your sighting, if they don't agree with your sighting. Another point that the scholars I mentioned is that if the sighting, and this occurred a few years ago, that the sighting of the moon was not confirmed except after the daytime of Ramadan had entered. After the daytime had entered. So the night no one's seen it, but once the day started, they said that they seen the moon. What do you do in this case? The scholars they say, if you have awoken muftiran, not fasting, and you believe that it is still Sha'ban, and then the proof has come that the moon has been sighted, and the proof has come that the moon has sighted, and that Ramadan has entered, then it is obligatory upon you to withhold for the rest of the day. This is the first stance. You withhold for the rest of the day, and you make up that day that you missed. And this is the stance of the majority of the scholars. This is the stance of the majority of the scholars, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Ash-Shafi, and Ahmed. Except that, Abu Hanifa, he said, that if the person has already ate, and the sun, the zenith has passed, the sun has passed the zenith, then he does not have to withhold. But nonetheless, this is their stance, that if you woke up with your fast broken, you didn't know it was Ramadan, and then the proof has come that Ramadan has entered, in this case, you withhold the rest of the day, and you make up that day. This is the first statement. Their proof is that, it comes to the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anh, Sumu li ru'yati wa aftiru li ru'yati. Fast when you see it, and break your fast when you don't see it. And now that it has been affirmed Ramadan has entered, they say that you must now it's an obligation not to withhold because of the month of Ramadan now. You're in the month of Ramadan. Similarly, it comes in the hadith of the Prophet when Ashura, they fasted Ashura, and they had started their day already. He said, "Man kana lam yasum falyasum." The one who has not fasted, then let him fast. وَمَنْ كَانَ أَكَلَ. The one who has ate, فَلْيُتِمَّ صِيَامَهُ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. Let him withhold and complete the fast of the night time. So they use this evidence because at that time, fasting Ashura was obligatory. Fasting Ashura at that time was obligatory. Before Ramadan became obligatory. The second statement is that they can eat the rest of the day and they just have to make up that day. They don't have to withhold. They can eat and they don't have to make. So the first statement says it's obligatory for you to withhold. You can't eat no more for the rest of the day. Once you find out Ramadan has entered, you have to withhold, but you still have to make it up. The second one says, no, you can eat, but you still have to make it up. The third statement that has a lot of strength, as scholars mentioned, is that once the news has reached him, he makes the intention that he's going to fast. Once the news has reached him, he makes the intention that he will fast, and he withholds for the rest of the day, and his fast counts, and he does not have to make up the day. And he does not have to make up the day. And they have a reason for that. From them who held this stance was Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah held this stance. And what was their proof? They said that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the obligation of fasting was connected to the sighting of the moon. To the sighting of the moon. And this day, the sighting was not confirmed except after the daytime had entered. Except after the daytime had entered. When it was not confirmed, you are not commanded to withhold. Now that it is confirmed, you have been commanded to withhold. And if you are to do that which you're commanded with, that is that which is only that is obligatory upon you. Only that which is obligatory is that which you're commanded with. And in this case, you are now commanded when the moon was sighted that you withhold. And that is what is obligatory upon you. So now when you know about it, then he says that what is also known is that the different affairs that break your fast, or different affairs that you should stay away from, that they fall with the excuse of ignorance. You are ignorant about the moon. You did not know Ramadan had entered. And so now that you know, you withhold now, and you continue your fast, and then your fast counts, and you do not have to make it up. Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah also mentioned that regarding the affair, how come they did not have the intention before Fajr? Because you have to have your intention for Fajr to fast. He says that the intention follows having knowledge. The intention follows having knowledge. When you did not know that the month had entered or not, you could not make an intention. But now that you're aware that the month has entered, even though it's a daytime Ramadan, then your intention starts from that moment and it counts. So the Shaykh mentions that this statement is very strong. But the safer stance is the first one. The safer stance is the first one, but this stance is strong. The safer stance was obviously that you withhold the rest of the day and then you make up that day. The next point we'll mention, it'll be the last one we'll end with, is if one land sees the moon, is it obligatory upon the rest of the lands that they must fast? And this is a affair that the people, they argue and debate about every single Ramadan. So it's something that is important for us to understand and know the different opinions regarding this statement. The first statement is that if a land from the land of the Muslimin, they see, or a land sees the new moon, then it's obligatory upon the Muslimin in all of the different lands to fast. This is what they say, the global moon sighting. The global sighting. If one land sees it, the rest of the lands have to fast. And that breaking the fast is also in accordance with that. Whether the different time zones are the same or not, it does not affect it. But rather, if one land sees it, the rest of the lands have to fast. And the proof is, they say, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Those amongst you has witnessed the month, then let him fast. And the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, that we mentioned, other than that, from them who took this stance in later times was Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah. Shaykh Al-Albani took this stance, Siddiq Hassan Khan, he took this stance, and Ash-Shawkani rahimahullah took this stance. And from the previous scholars, from them was Abu Hanifa, Malik, Ash-Shafi'i, and Ahmed took this stance. So, you see generally when the Hanafis, they tell you that you must fast in accordance to your sighting, well, Abu Hanifa took this stance as well. That he went with the global sighting as well, from one of his, or some of his statements. So showing us that many of the people, they're ignorant regarding their own madhab, and that which the madhab holds. This was the first statement. The second statement is that if the imam of the land, he is fasting, the rest of the people have to fast or under his land, or under his leadership. And in this case, if the khilafah was Amma, if the khilafah was controlling all the lands of Muslimin, in this case, and all the lands of Muslimin will follow the imam. So the leaders of the land, if they are fasting, then you follow them in that. That is the second statement. They say, As-sawm yawma tasumun, wal-fitr yawma tuftirun is the proof of this. That the day that they fast, you fast. The day that they break their fast, you break your fast. So you go with the jama'ah of the Muslimin. The third statement is that every single land has their own sighting. Every single land has their own sighting. And the fourth statement is that which is well known from the madhab of the Shafi'iyya, that they said that if the land, the time span between the two lands is close and the time zones are similar, then if one sees it, the rest of the lands have to fast as well. So for example, if Saudi is fasting, Yemen has to fast too, if they've seen it, for example. The time zone is the same. Whereas Canada's time zone is completely different. Then they won't have to be obligated to go by the sighting of Saudi Arabia, for example. They say if the time zones are the same and similar and the distance is close by, then they must fast according to the different sighting that was seen. And they say from the proof of that, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Those who witness the moon amongst you, then let him, or the month, then let him fast. Similarly, they say, سُومُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ وَافْتِرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ. They say that since it's the same time zone, then the moon is in the same time zone, then you have to go in accordance to that fast and the breaking of that fast. And they mention the narration of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, that when a man came to him and he fasted in Sham, and he came and he said, فَقُلْتُ رَأَيْنَاهُ اللَّيْلَ الْجُمْعَةِ. The man said, we seen it on the night of Jum'ah. فَقَالَ أَنْتَ رَأَيْتَهُ. You seen it? فَقُلْتُ نَعَمْ. وَرَآهُ النَّاسِ. And the people they seen, وَصَامُوا مُعَاوِيَةً. We fasted, they fasted, Muawiyah fasted. فَقَالَ وَلَكِنَّا رَأَيْنَاهُ لَيْلَةُ السَّبْتِ. Ibn Abbas said, we seen it on the Saturday night. فَلَا نَزَالْ نَصُومْ حَتَّى نُكْمِلْ 30 أَوْ نَرَاهُ. We will continue to fast until we complete 30 days or until we see the moon. فَقُلْتُ أَوَلَا تَكْتَفِي بِرُؤْيَةِ مُعَاوِيَةِ وَصِيَامِهِ. Would you not suffice yourself with the sighting of Muawiyah and fasting, his fasting? فَقَالَ لَا هَكَذَا أَمَرْنَا Rasulullah sallam. This is how we were commanded by the Prophet sallam, showing that they differed in their starting and ending of the month of Ramadan. Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen took the stance. This was the stance of Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen, that it can differ. That the sighting of the different lands could differ, and every land goes in accordance to their sighting. The fourth statement, or the correct stance the Shaykh deems is the fourth stance, that the lands can differ. If it goes to the time zones, it goes back to the time zones. But one known amongst the brothers is that we go by global sighting, according to the stance of many of the scholars. Now, the scholars I mentioned, from those who took the stance was Shaykh Imam Al-Wadi as well, rahimahullah, and Imam Al-Uthaymeen. So the three stances, or the four stances that we have, and this is important for us to understand, that these affairs shouldn't bring about much differing. For these affairs have been in the Ummah ever since the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, as we see in the narration of Ibn Abbas radiallahu Muawiyah, that if someone started their fast on a different day than you, because of his opinion, it is not something that you hold against him. There's four stances of the scholars. One of them is the global sighting, as we mentioned. The second one is that every land has their own sighting. The third one is that if the time zones are the same, then the country beside also has to go alongside that country. And the fourth stance that we mentioned is that if the Imam is fasting, then the people under his leadership, they also must fast. The last one I mentioned is that what is the distance? Well, you find some of the people, they play games with the distance. They'll tell you that I'm not fasting if it is seen in Saudi Arabia, for example. But if they see in California, they say I'm still not fasting. I didn't see in Toronto. But if it goes in accordance to what they believe, then he will fast. Then he'll fast. Shaykh Bassami mentions that the scholars, they mention that the distance that is held to be deemed to be the correct distance is 2,226 kilometers. The distance is that much, then the time zone is the same. 2,226 kilometers, whereas you could say that you are in the same time zone. You could say you are in the same time zone, and this is what they say that the scholars, they mention based on their study of this affair. So with this, inshallah, we'll stop and get ready soon for iftar, inshallah. If there's any question, we'll take now. If not, we'll continue next week, inshallah. The scholars who took that fourth stance, from them, they mention here, he says that Shaykh Al-Islam rahimahullah, he took this stance. From them, Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen. From them, Imam Al-Wadi rahimahullah also took that stance, the fourth stance. Those are from the ones we know. As for the previous scholars, we mentioned that most of them took the global sighting. From them, Abu Hanifa took that opinion, Malik, Al-Shafi'i, Ahmed, they all took that opinion of global sighting. If you go back to their books, from them, I remember one of their scholars, I forget his name right now, he clearly mentions in his book that this was their stance, Abu Hanifa's stance. Any other questions?